I would normally be posting this in my Facebook group. I have a Facebook group for women. It's called the Move Forward Group for Women. But I decided, given what's going on in the world, I should really make this public. And I'll go ahead and share it in the group after this. For those who don't know me, my name's Cecile Goff. And I just want to talk about this whole thing about the social isolation. And it's a really tough time. Like I hear some of my friends struggling. I've had moments in these past few days of a lot of anxiety and at some points even anger and fear for sure. It's a tough time, and I was inspired to do this post by another post I recently saw where someone was talking about partly why it's so hard for people to do this social isolation thing. It's tough because all of a sudden there's no distractions or less distractions and you come to a full stop. And that's not easy for people, especially in our society today. It's one of the toughest things to do. And I can say I honestly can relate to that. I used to be a nurse. I was an oncology nurse and it was busy, 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 all the time busy. And with my family and my friends and a lot of great social life and everything. And I loved my work. And then 15 years ago, it came to a very abrupt halt when my whole life imploded and I got very sick, and it took a very long time to figure out that it was Lyme disease. So that was over the course of 10 years. In the last 5 years, I've been spending a lot of time in social isolation. We just didn't have a name for it in my recovery from Lyme. And I still do it to this day. A lot of it's by choice. But it was a big shift and a big adaptation to go from busy, busy, busy to full stop and my whole life halting and then imploding and trying to figure out how to do that. So sometimes people don't even realize, like, why is the whole social isolation thing tough? It's tough because we end up having to face stuff we really don't want to face. Because if we don't have that kind of distraction in our life, of the everyday stuff that we do, just everyday living, then when we come to a full stop, then there's room and space for stuff to come up. And oftentimes it's stuff we don't want to look at. Could be traumas that we've experienced in our life, stuff we've gone through, could be old emotions. This could be likely triggering a lot of stuff in people. And emotions, like how you feel about yourself, how you relate to yourself. You know, it's so easy to not take a look at that kind of stuff. You know, even if you're going for therapy and stuff like that, it doesn't mean that you're really getting fully honest with yourself. It's only in those moments of quiet and stillness, when things do come to a full stop and all you're left with is yourself, that shit gets real pretty quick. And it can be really hard to sit with that, really hard to sit with it. And I just had a conversation with a really dear friend of mine today who's over in Spain right now and trying to get home. And we were talking about that. The anxiety and the fear comes up. You know, I've been feeling pretty scared these last few days because my partner, a great love of my life, he lives in New Hampshire and I'm here in Canada. And the border is closed and we can't be together right now, unfortunately. So worried about him, naturally concerned, and about his boys and the family. That's all natural. And living with Lyme disease in the way that I am in my recovery, having concerns about being immunocompromised and all that kind of stuff, and worried about my concern for my coworkers that I love, the nurses that I worked with for so long. I'm a former oncology nurse. I'm wishing I could be there with them and, you know, hoping everybody's going to be okay. I can't imagine what they're going through right now. So there's a lot of stuff that comes up. And the thing is like, just, you know, try your best to be open to it. And my friend I was talking with today, you know, we talked about fear and how to avoid fear. And one of the things I've learned is that it's not about trying to avoid fear, because that's just, you know, we're human nature. We're going to feel this kind of stuff. It comes up. It doesn't mean like we haven't had enough therapy, or we're not evolved enough, or we haven't dealt with our trauma and our own stuff in our lives enough. It just means we're human. And I used to think the goal was about not being afraid, but now I look at the goal as, you know, feeling the fear and doing it anyway. doing the thing anyway. And one of my mentors in my business world had a great thing that she says is that, it's not about not going down the rabbit hole. It's about not going down so far, so deep, and bouncing back faster. So that's the way to do it. And when I keep that thought in my mind, it makes it a hell of a lot easier to be gentle with myself and to not beat myself up in these kind of very unusual times that we're living in. So if you're afraid, know that it's okay. It's like, how could you not be afraid at this moment? Now, also take a look at, what's the fear really about? Like on surface level, it's about, sure, the elephant in the room, which is the virus, of course. But what else could be underneath that in terms of fears? What's your perception about that? Like, how do you relate to it? How do you feel about yourself? Are you beating yourself up because you feel afraid? Are you judging yourself? It's really helpful. Like, I've found it really helpful in my own experience, and it's what I also teach with the women I work with, to take some time to really explore what's underneath the hood. You go to a garage, you bring your car into the garage and get it checked out, going underneath the hood. Well, same thing for us. We've got a lot hiding out underneath the hood, and these crisis times are they're all the things. They're tough emotionally, they're tough physically, but they're also an opportunity to take a look at, how you're really doing and how you really feel about yourself. And are you able to live through these times without judging yourself? Being able to be merciful with yourself and kind and forgiving of yourself and everyone around you. And that might sound woo-woo. There was a time when I probably would have thought that was a bit woo. Like, I'm a former chemo nurse, so strong science background. But it's been a big part of my recovery with Lyme, is taking a look at all this. The mind, body, spirit thing is real. It is all connected in ways I never learned in nursing school, that's for sure. So, if you're afraid, that's completely natural and normal. Take a look at it and try not to live there. And for me, one way to not live there is to get up and move. So dancing or going for a walk or singing, anything like that helps dissipate that kind of energy, like raise your vibe. It's not even so much just about positive thinking, because you can't always think your way out of this or these kinds of situations, but raising your vibe and having good feelings, that helps. It's really great for the immune system. So the more that we can do to raise our vibe, music is for me is the best way to do it, then the more we bolster our immune system. It's a great time to rest and be still and go within and listen for what's coming up, what's showing up for you. It's a great time to move through some blocks, some things that could be creating resistance. It's a wonderful time to be creative. But, if you're feeling at the moment holy shit, I just can't kind of get off the couch and binge watch Netflix, that's probably just part of your process too. You don't need to judge yourself for that. That's okay too. I've been seeing posts like rise up and be leaders and all that kind of stuff. But you might also need a stress nap. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be both. It's perfectly okay to be in that space where, you need to take some time and process it. And we process things differently. Some people process things really quickly. Some people don't. And neither is right or wrong. So, be gentle and give yourself what you need. I was thinking about it today. Years and years ago, I grew up in Army Cadets. So back in 1990, I did a leadership and challenge course in Banff, Alberta. And it was my first real, that I can think of, maybe other than when I was really small, time when I was really facing this whole mental thing that goes with social isolation. And I was in a team of 4. It was myself and 2 other young women, cadets, and our instructor. And we were living on a glacier at the base of Peyto Glacier in Alberta at Lake Louise. And we would do these hours and hours of hiking along a glacier. And then we'd hike a mountain peak. And they had to be done at certain, like very, very early in the morning. We would set out at 4 a.m. because you couldn't be on the glacier roaming around in the middle of the day because of the danger of falling into a crevasse. So to prevent that, of all of us falling into a crevasse, we, as a team of 4, were literally tied together with rope, and there were several feet, I don't know how many, a lot of feet between us. And that was a safety measure, that if one fell into a crevasse, then we wouldn't all fall in, we could pull the other person out. And I remember, I didn't realize that's what I was signing up for. And it was tough. I remember it was tough. All that time, hours and hours, it was beautiful and all that, but like you're just walking on ice. It's kind of like a desert, you get the snow blindness, even though we had goggles. It was a weird and wild time. And I remember it was one of the first times I'd ever really gone inward and had to wrestle. There was a lot of emotional wrestling with myself, and to keep going when you're tired, and you're tired of just seeing ice in front of you for hours on end. And yeah, that really came to me. That was a strong point in my life, and I was only 15, so it was a great experience to have at that age, as tough as it was. And it really was challenging because it was social isolation. I look back on it now and realize that's what it was. So in terms of social isolation in my own life right now, I mean, that's what living with a chronic illness can be like, is not seeing a whole lot of people, because a way of maintaining my physical health, my mental health, not being able to have too much overstimulation in that way. I've grown to really love it. I find I need that now. I need that. I'm much more of an introvert than an extrovert, it turns out, which is kind of surprising. And one of the ways that really helps me cope, and I know you see it on all the blogs and everything, but it's really true, is this whole thing of gratitude. So like, what can you be grateful for in this moment? And the social isolation, it can feel like a prison for a lot of people. That's one of the things that I'm hearing. But like, take a look at your circumstances. Like I look around my apartment and I think, wow, I'm so fortunate and blessed to have this apartment, to have a safe space, to have a roof over my head, to have a balcony that I can look out and see these beautiful trees, to be fortunate that I live in Canada and a city with lots of community and great people around me. Fortunate to have this time to go inward. There's so many things to be fortunate, to feel fortunate about, to feel blessed about. And really, are we ever isolated in this day and age? I mean, look at the internet. I'm reaching out to a bunch of people right now through the magic of the internet. The last time there was like a crisis such as this happening in the world, there was no access to this type of thing. So we're so fortunate that we have this. So, probably trying to get a little perspective in that way. It's not about not feeling your feelings. Let those feelings come and explore them, or just be with them, just sit in it for a little while and know that it'll pass, So you can explore it or choose to just sit in it and explore it another time. Just really be gentle with yourself and give yourself some time and space to be grateful for what you have around you. These are the things that help me and have helped me, and for the last number of years, and continue to help me today. Those of us that live with a chronic illness, we're kind of masters at this whole social isolation thing. So if you know someone in your life that lives with a chronic illness and you're struggling, reach out to them and ask them for their help, because I'm telling you, they've got some tips on how to do this. It's a bit of a lifestyle, and we know it well. We understand it well. I wasn't sure there'd ever be like a real upside to this, and this is a real opportunity to build resilience. And I believe resilience is a muscle, and it's one that can be trained like going to the gym. So if you've got some thoughts to share, feel free to reach out in the comments below. If you want to join my group, it's called the Move Forward Group for Women. Sorry, fellas, it's only open to women at this time. If you're someone who needs some extra support, and wants to book a private session, certainly I have some limited availability for that right now. I know people like joining groups and the communal support, but some people need that one-on-one mentorship as well. I'm happy to offer that in whatever capacity I can at this time. So stay safe out there. You know, the social isolation and the social distancing, it's a tremendous way to flatten the curve and help our healthcare system deal with what's here right now. If you think of it in terms of care as opposed to fear, that's a really great reframe that can shift how you feel about things. That's how I'm choosing to look at it right now, is that the social isolation it's not based on fear. It's a way to take care of the ones who care for us when we need it. And that's our frontline healthcare workers. The more we can slow this thing down in terms of community transmission, passing it on to one another, then the more we're taking care of our healthcare system. And remember, you know, like, while there's a lot of people out there with this virus and the numbers are quite explosive and exponential, there's a very large percentage of those numbers that aren't going to get severely sick with it. So what we need to do is think about the small percentage of people, you know, I don't know what it is, if it's 5, 10, 15, 20% of people that are going to need the help of the healthcare system, that are going to be relying on ICUs and ventilators and things like that. You know, right now we know we don't have enough. We likely don't have enough to take care of all those people. So the best thing we can do is to slow down the transmission, to give our healthcare system a chance to catch up and take care of the people who are really going to need that type of service. So hang in there and take good care and connect. There's lots of great Facebook groups popping up. There's lots of great ways, you know, do a video chat with your friend and have a cup of coffee together or something like that. Lots of great ways to survive this. And if you want any more ideas, again, feel free to comment and reach out. I'm happy to support. All right, take care. That's it. Bye.